Hello and welcome in today's class, students. So today's topic is absorption spectrum and the action spectrum of photosynthesis. So before starting the lecture, before starting the topic, we have to discuss in a brief what is photosynthesis. That with the help of CO2 and water molecules, green plants use them and use sunlight because green plants have the green color pigment storage, that is chloroplast. Okay, and they form one molecule of glucose as well as the byproduct oxygen, which is essential for the living organisms. Okay, so that is exactly CO2 and water. In the presence of sunlight, the chloroplast use it and then form that. So what exactly chloroplasts have? Because of that, the process completes. So basically chloroplast have pigments. Okay, in higher plants, we are talking about in higher plants photosynthesis. So the higher plants, chloroplasts have pigments like chlorophyll, carotenes, carotenoids, xanthophylls, etc. Okay, so basically these are such main important pigments. So we have to discuss about the absorption spectrum of the pigments as well as the action spectrum of the photosynthesis. That means the rate of photosynthesis. So students, see the diagram. Here we have three graphs, the one, the second and the third. So students, this is the first, the A graph, then B, then this is the third graph, C. You can see the A graph. This is the absorption spectrum, the B graph, the action spectrum of photosynthesis, and this is the C, the third graph, action spectrum of photosynthesis superimposed on absorption spectrum of chlorophyll A. So students, we can see on the x-axis the parameters are same. It is the wavelength of light in nanometer. You know about the visible spectrum. It is 400, approximately starts from 400 to 700 mentioned here. And the y-axis have different parameters according to the graph. The first one we have to discuss the absorption spectrum of the photosynthesis. So what we see that absorbance of light by chloroplast pigments. That means the pigments of chloroplast yet we have discussed. That means chlorophylls, carotenoids, xanthophylls, etc. absorb the light. Okay. So here you can see we have three pigments. We are talking about three pigments graph. The first one is carotenoid. You can see the green color graph. Carotenoid have a peak in the 400 to 500, approximately nearby 600 also. So we can conclude that they have the peak only in this range of wavelength. After that, there is no peak of carotenoid graph showing. Then we can see the blue color graph of chlorophyll B. You can see B, the blue color graph. So we can see that chlorophyll B have two peaks. The second one is. The first one peak is in the wavelength of 400 to 500 nanometer and the other one is between the 600 to 700 nanometer. So basically the chlorophyll B, which have the much higher peak in between 400 to 500 nanometer, but between 600 to 700 nanometer they have a lesser peak. So the chlorophyll B absorb more blue light than the less red light. So first conclusion we get that chlorophyll B absorb more blue light than the red light. Okay. The second thing we see the red color graph. You can see the chlorophyll A. The chlorophyll A also showing two peaks. Okay. The one peak is between 400 to 500 nanometer. That means in blue color wavelength. And then second peak is between 600 to 700 nanometer. That means in red peak. But students, here we can see that the chlorophyll A peak is lesser in blue than the chlorophyll B. You can see here this peak is small, lesser, not too much high like a chlorophyll B peak. So that means chlorophyll B absorb more blue light. Correct? Because its peak is quite higher than the chlorophyll B's peak. So chlorophyll B absorb more blue light than chlorophyll A. It's true? You can see. Okay? The second conclusion we can get, here you can see 600 to 700 nanometer. The chlorophyll B peak is too much lesser than the peak of chlorophyll A. So here we can conclude that chlorophyll A absorb more red light than the chlorophyll B. So chlorophyll A absorb more red light than chlorophyll B. Great. Okay. So B absorb more blue light, A absorb more red light. Okay. Now third conclusion. Now we can see that this is the second graph, which is the rate of photosynthesis measured by released oxygen. The rate of photosynthesis, the action spectrum of photosynthesis, we can see here two peaks. The one peak is between the 400 to 500 nanometer, that means blue color wavelength, and then other peak between the 600 to 700 nanometer, that means in red wavelength. So here we can see the two peaks in chlorophyll A and B is also in the red and the blue color. So basically in the photosynthesis of higher plants, the chief pigments, the chief wavelength of light, basically pigments chiefly absorb are the blue and the red. So photosynthesis is chiefly in red and blue light. Okay, I hope you understand that. Next, fourth. So in the higher plants, approximately chlorophyll is 3 times than the chlorophyll B. If chlorophyll A is approximately 3 times, then what color of wavelength of light pigments absorb? That means plants show much photosynthesis in which color of wavelength? That is A. So A absorb red light, that means photosynthesis is more in red light than the blue light. In higher plants, a maximum and visible spectrum. So these are some conclusions based on these three graphs. The one, blue absorb, chlorophyll B absorb more blue than A, chlorophyll A absorb more red than B, photosynthesis chiefly in red and blue light wavelength, chlorophyll A is approximately 3 times to chlorophyll B. That's why in higher plants photosynthesis is more in red color wavelength. So student, this is all about today's class. I hope you like the class and you understand all the details which we have discussed here. So meet you in the next class. Thank you so much.